Okay, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Market Review. Okay, I think we have quite a very low turn up of persons at the moment. Should we just give an extra 3 minutes for other persons to join in and then we proceed, right? While we are waiting, let's quickly share the fundamentals we have for the day. Okay, so while we're still waiting for us to join in, the main essence of this money market review is actually to help us understand how this market works, especially for those that have gone through the training phase. I keep telling people, try as much as possible to go through the training, right? Trading is just like every other business out there. If you don't understand how it works, most likely you wouldn't be making a good success in the market, right? So in as much as you're getting daily signals from the money market review, also strive to understand why certain principles are set in place and why we perform certain actions. And that's how you become a profitable trader in the long run, right? So you get familiar with how to use your trend lines, how to use your moving averages, how to use your take profit and stop loss. And in the long run, you'd see yourself just excelling as a trader, right? So looking at fundamentals we have for the day. Today being the 18th of January, today's Thursday, yes, 18th of January, we actually have a couple of medium impact and high impact news. I usually do my filter for medium and high impact news. Of course, if you're looking at low impact and no impact news, you most likely wouldn't be getting volatility from those news. So I just streamline my filter to the high impact news and the medium impact news. And with that, you streamline the information you want to work with for the day. So already by 1:30 a.m. for those that stay up at night and trade the Asian session, for 1:30 a.m. we actually had high impact news come out on the AUD. That's unemployment change, which came out negative, and then we had their employment rates, which came out unchanged, right? So I think that actually sent a negative sentiment on the AUD. So if you're looking at trading AUD somewhat around midnight up until this morning and probably later into the day, you most likely will be seeing a weakness in the AUD, right? So we are going to be having the WEF annual meeting, right? WEF annual meeting, and that will be affecting all the currency. So it's the day four of that meeting. So that meeting has been running for 3 days now, and today is the fourth day, and it affects all currency. It affects all currency. So by 11:30 a.m. we actually have news on CHF. Their SBN chair will be speaking. That's Jordan Speaks. Would be speaking by 11:30. Then by 12:30, we have unemployment claims in the US, right? I mostly most persons look towards trading the USD because that's the time at which we're active, right? We trade mostly the USD because around that time, that's the heat of our working activity period around this time. So you're looking at trading during the afternoons or maybe early hours of the maybe mid morning, early afternoon, and towards late evening. That's why the USD is the most traded, right? So we also have by 2:30 we have about three news: the unemployment claims, which is a high impact news. We have medium impact news, which is the building permit. We have Philly Fed Manufacturing Index, right, which is also a medium impact news, right? By 4:15, we have news on the euro. So Lagarde would also be speaking. So for the speech, we have, I tell people, those news coming out are categorized into two. We have data news and then we have statements, government policies coming out, right? So, but what we have now, We have a speech from that will be affecting all the currency. We have speech on CHF. We have data news on the USD, which is unemployment claims, building permits, filling manufacturing index. Those are data news. So of course you have the previous and the forecast. Right, we have the previous and the forecast. So for the of course, we expect that if the actual the previous, the actual, and the forecast. So we are looking at the actual now, which is not out yet. So by the time the news comes out, if the actual comes out positive, you know that it's going to give a positive run for that currency. And if the actual comes out negative, definitely it's going to give a negative run for that particular currency. Right. Then for speech, all you just need to know is go check or you could follow the news either on CNN, follow it live on maybe Al Jazeera or wherever your news out, you're getting your news from. So you follow the news or you get the headline. So from the headline, you could literally get a summary of what the speaker is saying to determine how best to trade that news and how best to enter. If you're getting a data news, most times it's always good to wait to get the actual sentiment surrounding that news before placing the trade. Wait for the actual sentiment. So let's take, for example, unemployment change comes in, right? As soon as the news comes out, and I know it comes out positive, for example, sometimes the news comes out positive and you get the market going in the opposite direction. So sometimes it's always good to have that little pause, right? It's either you have that little pause and wait for the market to pick up in the direction at which the news is supposed to drive it to. That way you are able to filter yourself out from the noise, because most times when the news comes out, some traders are already on some open positions, and in a bid to try and close out the trade, a lot of persons trying to close out their trade, you could see the market go the opposite direction before it now goes the actual direction of the news. So you also need to be very smart about it and very technical or very intentional so that you don't shoot yourself in the leg. So for speech also, it's best you follow the volatility as much as you can. I like scalping during fundamental news. I like scalping a lot because it gives me ample opportunity to take more trades, right? But if you cannot scalp, if maybe you don't have the means at the moment, you're not in a place to scalp, you could do a proper analysis and do pending orders. Yes, you could also use pending orders, set appropriate pending orders with good lot size proportional to your trading account, right? So good lot size proportional to your trading account, so that at the end of the day, when that volatility picks up, picks your pending order, gets to your take profits, what you'll be seeing in profits would make actual sense. So imagine me placing a position trade or using pending order and using 0.01. To me, it doesn't really make sense. It's just more like a waste of my time. Right. So you need to be very intentional. This year is a year of with the slogan that we're pushing now, and no grief for anybody. So this year, me, I know they grief for market. So you have no grief for market, so that you go carry something come out this year. Right. So let's quickly dive into the charts to see um instruments we could actually take trades on, bearing in mind that we are having volatility on the USD, on the euro, and on CHF. So we are most likely going to be considering those instruments, since we are going to be getting those currencies rather, since we'll be getting more volatility from them, right? Okay, so sorry, my chat is always very noisy because of constant analyzing and analyzing. But let's quickly look at USD IDX, right? For you to get a clear overview of what's happening in the stocks market, what's happening in the USD market, it's best to take a close look at the dollar index. The dollar index has actually been on a progressive high as at last year. This is on a let's look at it on a daily time frame, right? So on a daily time frame, last year was the ending of last year was actually a good push for the dollar, right? After that, please mute your mic so you don't distract the class. Once you come in, just mute your mic and let everybody be able to follow along, right? So the dollar index actually had a very good end of the year last year, but if you notice, as at when we had the June CPI, when we had that major crash in the dollar, it was a very, very big crash in the dollar. We had this fall, right? But this year, I think to a large extent, the dollar might actually still continue to push up, because from last year we had it ended with a note of the Fed chair that there was going to be early increase in increase in rate, right? Cut in rate rather. So there was going to be cut in rate again. So cutting interest rate is one way to actually try and curb inflation. The US on its own has been suffering large percentage of inflation for a very long time, and so far, towards the end of last year, I think they were able to some extent beat that inflation worries, and we most likely would still see that continue, right? So, in the long run, I still expect that the dollar index should still push up, right? I still expect that the dollar index should still push up at least back to this resistance point where it came all the way from, right? That's in the long run if you're looking at taking a long-term trade. But for today, right? For today, looking at the market technically, I am going to be employing my stochastic, right? I'm going to be employing my stochastic, which is my volume oscillator. It gives me my the level of overbought and oversold region, gives me the volume of buyers and sellers in the market, so I could tell if I should still continue up on a buy or still continue up on a sell. So like throughout the whole of yesterday, we had this major fall in the dollar up until this support zone here. Though it hasn't completely gotten to this support, but it's already in that zone, right? It's already in that zone. And you could see that by midnight, we had this gap down. We have this gap down. And whenever there is a gap down, most likely you expect that price should actually push up to cover up that gap. At least 80% of the time, price pushes up to cover up that gap. So banking on that, uh to be sure, okay, everybody can see my screen. I just wanted to be sure. If you have questions, just drop them in the chat sessions and they'll be attended to. Okay. So normally this class is not for question and answering, but if you have questions, just drop them. I'll try as much as possible to attend to them after my analysis, right? So looking at it, we have this gap down here. I personally think this price of USD IDX would actually push up, right? So if you're looking at your stochastic, price just bounced off my oversold region, and I expect that it should push up, right? My stochastic is also showing a golden cross at this point, a golden cross at this point. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going for a buy, right? I'm going to be going in for a buy. I would have said an instant buy, but if you're looking at it closely, you see that somewhat around here is a little bit of a rejection for price. So I'd want to go in for a buy if price is able to break above that rejection. So I'll be going in for my buy at price level. This is on USD IDX, dollar index, USD IDX. That's the instrument. So for my dollar index, I'm going to be going in for a buy at price level 103.103, 103.103. I'm going for a buy at around that point, and then take my profit at 103.323. That's my buy. My preference is a buy, but I'll be going in for a buy if price is able to break this resistance point at 103.103. Take my profit at 103.323, right? But alternatively, of course, because of the volatility we are expecting on the USD IDX, I expect that price should actually push up, right? Whenever there is news coming out, especially on the USD or news coming out on the GBP, there's what we call sentiment, right? Three things move the market. We have the fundamentals, we have sentiment, and we have the technical, right? The technical aspect of the chart, right? But sentiment, to a large extent, comes into play whenever there's a news coming out. So people are expecting that, okay, of course there's a news coming out, and it should be positive for that particular currency. It should, quote unquote, it should. So that's my sentiment, and that's what most trader will feel like at this point in time. That okay, since there's a news coming out, definitely there should be something new that they are trying to tweak to make that currency better. So sentiment around it will be that price might actually push up, but in a turn of events, what I'd actually do is go in for a sell if price is able to break below my support. So currently, price is at this support right here at 102.834, but that's my support zone. So if I'm going to be going in for a sell, I'd want to go in for a sell below that support, So I'm going for a sell at price level 102.719. I'm going for a sell at 102.719, right? Then take my profit before the next support. So if you look closely, price has been rejected here. This is on the 5th of January, rejection 1 and rejection 2. So this place is actually a good rejection for price. Twice price has been rejected there. So I'll be going in for my take profit at price level 102.521. 102.521. See it how I actually brought my sell preference way below my support point, right? The worst place you could put your sell is on your support, because price can actually hit your support, trigger your sell, and get rejected, right? So as much as possible, you want to steer off the support with a good pip margin, right? You want to stay off the support or off your resistance with a good pip margin. So that way you're not in for a fake out trade where price just goes, triggers your entry. I have a lot of clients complain that, hey, after doing my analysis, I noticed that every time price goes and triggers my entry, and then all of a sudden it start reversing. Yes, because you placed your trade on a support, or you place your trade on a resistance. That's the worst thing you could do to yourself as a trader, right? So you see how I steered off that support, bringing my entry way down, right? To ensure that even if price is going to trigger my sell, if for any reason price is actually going to trigger my sell, it will be based on the fact that price has broken that support completely and is heading straight to the next support, right? So I can comfortably still hold on to that kind of trade, right? So the next instrument we'll be looking at is GBP USD. Like I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. So the next instrument we'll be looking at is GBP USD. So like I said, we'll be considering instrument currencies that would be having fundamentals coming out today. So USD is our best pick, and then we'll look at very few euro pair, and then most likely CHF pair, right? So GBP USD, of course, GBP USD has actually gotten to this resistance point for the second time this week, right? It got there yesterday, and as at the 15th of okay, that was yesterday. This is on the 1 hour time frame, yes. So today is 18th, yes. So as at the 15th, we had price being rejected at this point. Then price was able to break below there, and now that point is acting as a resistance for price. So you could see price was rejected there yesterday, and it's being rejected there today. So seeing that we are actually having a news coming out on the USD, I expect that the USD should gain a little bit of strength, right? The USD should gain a little bit of strength against the GBP this morning. Should gain a little bit of strength against the GBP this morning, right? But I would like to do this. Let's also take a deep look into our currency strength meter, right? That will give us how strong the GBP is at this point in time, because despite the fact that we have the USD strong, right? Despite the fact that we have the USD strong at this moment, the GBP might also be strong. So if you're taking such a trade, you most likely will be having a ranging market, or in a scenario where the GBP is way stronger than the dollar. Despite the fact that a news is coming out, you still have the GBP still win against the dollar. So your currency strength meter is your best bet to tell which of the instruments is the strongest at this point in time. So you could see that GBP is actually is actually stronger of the two pair, GBP USD. GBP is actually the stronger one of the two pair, right? But I don't think that strength would last long. I don't think that strength will last long, because bear it in mind, we have news coming out on the USD, but no news coming out on the GBP. So this strength might actually not last very long for the or GBP, or rather the weakness of the dollar as at this point in time might really not last very long. You could refresh this chart in the next 1-2 hours, and then you see USD way at the top, right? That's just how currency strength meter works. And of course, this is in real time. So you could see it's moving, it's in real time, it tracks the strength of this currency per time per time. So it's in real time, and definitely you get a accurate figure. So bearing it in mind, of course, we are forecasting what the possible outcome would be. So bearing it in mind, looking at all the this thing we have on the table, all the evidence on the table, we see that we have news coming out on the USD, right? No news on the GBP. Despite the fact that the GBP is currently strong, it doesn't really mean it might continue pushing up. And looking at the chart, GBP has hit a resistance point. So the likelihood of price dragging way upward is actually very slim. right, is actually very slim. So my preference, that brings me down to my preference. So my preference on this particular instrument is actually going to be a sell, right? Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Okay, where do I mute all? Mute all. Okay. So my preference for this particular instrument is actually going to be a sell. Is actually going to be a sell. All right. So, but I'm not going to just jump in for an instant sell. Of course, I want to go in for a sell at a safe zone, and that safe zone will be below my support. Below my support. So, if you notice, this place is a support, right? Which was formerly a resistance for price on the 16th of January. Here was serving as a resistance for price, but today it served as a support for price. So definitely, if I'm going to be going in for a trade, I'm going to be going in for a trade below that point. Let me change the property of this. Give it more like an orange. Perfect. So I'm going to be going for a sell. So this is my support. I'm going for a sell below that support at price level 1.26608, 1.26608, 1.26608. I'm going for a sell at around that point. Then take my profit before the next support. So this is the next support. So I just want to take my profit before the next support. Push it in a little. So my take profit will be at 1.26432, 1.26432. So this would give me roughly around 15 pips. Yes, this is about 15 pips, right? So of course it's currency, and currencies are cheap. Currencies are actually very cheap. So if you want to take the best of that trade, of course you should look at using a very good lot size proportional to your account. So let's take, for example, I have a good 1 million naira in my trading account at this point in time. I could actually go in for a standard lot, right? On GBP USD, a standard lot on GBP USD should be giving you roughly around 15,000 naira. So 15,000 naira, somewhat around 12,000 rather, GBP USD, yes, around 12,000 naira for a standard lot. It's not very expensive, right? A standard lot, 12,000 naira. And if I'm going in at a standard lot, that's a standard lot times 15. That's my 12,000 naira times 15, which should give me something to at least fuel my car for the rest of the week. You get, so that's how you do your projection. And if you're looking at making something better, if you have good volume in your account and you're looking at making something better, two standard lots, that's roughly around 25,000 naira times 15. I mean, that's enough to fuel your car and fuel probably do some other things. Maybe go out for the weekend. We are close to the weekend. Maybe give yourself a nice treat this weekend, right? So alternatively, right, should the dollar actually come out weak, right? Should the news on the dollar actually come out weak, then definitely we should see a further push up on GBP USD, right? But if that is actually going to be happening, I'm going to go in for a buy if price breaks above my resistance point, and see how I'm clearly going way above the resistance point, because that's not my preference, right? This is just an maybe in a ton of events. So I want to be sure that in a ton of events, if price goes in for a buy, it is heading to a clear buy. It should have broken my resistance point completely. It should have broken my resistance point completely without any fake out. So I don't want a scenario where it triggers my buy entry and starts coming back down. No, I don't want to be trapped in the market. So it should have broken way above my resistance, which is this blue line, and then I'll be going in for my buy entry at 1.27116, 1.27116. That will now be my entry for a buy, right? So you could use a pending order at that point, and then of course I'll be taking my profit at the next resistance at 1.27303. 1.27303. I'll be taking my profit at around that point. So that's just going to be my preference for GBP USD. It's a sell, right? It's a sell for GBP USD, looking at all the variables we have on the table, right? So let's look at Euro USD. Let's look at Euro USD. As Euro USD here, I have my MACD. Okay, I prefer, let me take out my MACD and also add my stochastic. I'll take out my MACD and add my stochastic indicator. Stochastic is an oscillator, and then stochastic oscillator. I just use the defaults. I don't really change anything, right? So looking at it, my Euro USD actually has almost the same pattern with my GBP USD at this point in time. You could see that price is actually at a resistance point. It's even currently being rejected at this resistance point. It's a resistance point because as that if you look back, because a lot of us when we are doing our analysis, we don't look back. You forget the basic rule of technical analysis is looking back, right? So technical analysis is looking back to see what price has done in the past to determine what it will do in the future. That's just what technical analysis is all about, right? So bearing that in mind, I'm looking back to see what has happened before when price got to this point. So if you looking back at the 9th of January, this point was actually a good support point for price, but price was able to break below that point at this on the 16th of January. But now this point is still serving as a resistance. So it was a support now turned resistance. So this point was a support now turned resistance. You must have heard of turncoat support and turncoat resistance. So this is what it means. This point used to be a support, but it is now a resistance. So bearing it in mind that it is resisting price, so the likelihood of price pushing up, right? The likelihood of price pushing up is slimmer. And if you're looking at your stochastic is actually being rejected from your overbought region. The price has actually been buying crazy from yesterday, right? Price has actually been buying crazy from yesterday. It has gotten to a saturation point, which is my overbought region, and it's currently falling from there, right? It's currently falling from the overbought region, right? So my preference on Euro USD without saying so much is a sell, right? It's a sell. It's a sell. Seeing that price was in between here, right? Seeing that there was a little bit of a rejection at around this point here, right? There was a little bit of a rejection at around this point here. So for scalpers, if you want to scalp this market, you could actually go in for an instant sell, take your profit at this point here at 1.08838. So that's for scalping. So if I'm going to be scalping, of course, I'll drop this into a smaller time frame. This is a 15 minutes time frame, right? You could go in for an instant sell straight down to this point here where I have my resistance point here. So it's not going to be a long trade, right? So that was roughly around 12 people of scalping. It's a good one. You could actually take that, right? 12 people of scalping. So you do that this morning, enter at an instant market execution, instant trade, scalp down to that support, you close out, right? You could take multiple, like I sometimes I do stalking. I stalk my trade. I could take maybe I could take a micro lot size, maybe 0.05. I could stack it in 4 or 5 places, right? Because I'm scalping. I could do stacking, stack it in 4 or 5 places, drag it all the way down, and then take my profits, right? So those are for those that would want to take that opportunity right away. But for those that are going to be picking a position, I would want to wait for price to break below this my support this point here where price was rejected, right? Currently, of course, it has been established that most likely price will push down, right? It has been established that most likely price will push down. So I don't just want to jump in blindly. I want to be sure that price comes way below this point here because there's a rejection around here, right? I don't want price to struggle around there, right? So I want to go in for a position at 1.08758 rather 1.08785 1.08785. I'm going for a sell at around there and then take my profit yeah at 1.08620. I take my profit at around that point. So if you look at it very well, you have roughly around 16 pip, right? So like I said, this is Euro USD. Euro USD is one of the cheapest instruments you can find out there. Euro USD should be giving you it's 10 naira for 0.01, it's 100 naira for 0.10, and it's about 1,000 naira on a standard lot. It's not it's just something you use in buying burger and you're okay, right? But if you actually have good volume, right? If I could throw in a good weight of 5 standard lots, right? That would be giving me roughly around, right? So like I said, always use lot size proportional to your trading account. It's very critical that you use lot size proportional to your trading account, because I don't see the reason why you should have let's say 2 million 3 million in your trading account and you're using a micro lot size or a mini lot size on currencies. Bear it in mind, currencies, right? Because if you're looking at indices and agro commodities, those are on another level entirely. But in as much as you're trading with currencies, good lot size is what would actually give you the desired profits that you're looking for, right? So it wouldn't make sense if I have to go through all this preparation, all this analysis just for me to start making maybe 1,000, 2,000 on this trade, right? So just think it, do the math in your head, and you should be able to come up with a good lot size that is suitable for your trading account, right? That's for Euro USD. So for Euro USD, alternatively for Euro USD, if should it come out negative for the dollar, of course you should see the euro actually push up a little, right? You should see the euro actually push up a little. Then you can now consider a buy. Of course, way above my resistance point. Of course, way above my resistance point. You could enter a buy at price level 1.09143, 1.09143, 1.09143, then take my profit here at 1.09320, 1.09320. So that's alternatively for Euro USD. But my preference on Euro USD is sell, right? So let's also look at USD JPY. Let's look at USD JPY. USD JPY. So for USD JPY, okay, so for USD JPY, the JPY as an instrument is because the JPY zone is it's a production zone. The economy is a producing economy. We have different types of economy out there. We have the service economy like the US, right? The US offers 90, let's say 70 to 80% of the economy is based on service. So you have law firms, you have medical industries, you have the entertainment industries, you have the what they call it, the technological industries that offer services like Facebook, Amazon. Those are service-based industries, right? So, but JPY is a producing economy. Most things they do there is production of cars, production of machines, production of appliances, and all of that. So most times you get the JPY very strong, right? So of recent, where USD has actually been climbing against the JPY is as a result of the coronavirus actually hits the Asian zone harder than it hits the remaining part of the world. So they are still trying to come out of that. Their manufacturing companies are not yet working into in full capacity at the moment. They are not working at 100% capacity at the moment. Some persons have not even in some companies they are still yet to resume jobs and all of that. And then you have at some point last year we had energy crisis, which of course as a manufacturing country, once there is issue with energy crisis or there is issue with oil supply of oil and all of that, it also weighs down on your economy and all of that, right? But I think the JPY this year is making a little bit of a strong recovery, right? A little bit of not so strong though, because the USD still finds a way to stay afloat. But for this morning, I expect that despite the fact that USD actually pulled down against the JPY, despite the fact, yeah, it pulled down against the JPY this morning. I expect that price should still push up, right? Price has actually gotten to a support point. Looking at my stochastic also, you can see that my stochastic is at my oversold region. At my oversold region, price this sell here has gotten to a saturation point. My oversold region, I expect that price should still push up for a buy. So in this case here, seeing that this is the only major obstacle, yeah, seeing that this is the only major obstacle I have here, I'd actually go in for an instant buy on USD JPY at this point in time, right? An instant buy on USD JPY at this point in time. So looking at it, we only have one rejection around there. To be sure, let's go to a 4-hour time frame. Yes, okay. So yes, you could see. So that rejection doesn't really hold a whole lot of water. This is the rejection I'm talking about here. So this is it on a 4-hour time frame. You could see that it's a clear path. The clear path up until the December 5th. It's a clear path. A very, very clear path. We had that this thing again pop up on the 27th of November, but still it's still a very clear path. So I'll be going in for an instant buy, right? I'll be going in for an instant buy at that point, taking my profit before the resistance at the top here. My take profit will be at 148.402. Instant buy, take profit at 148.402. Instant buy, take profit at 148.402, right? So of course, someone was asking me for a stop loss, right? In the basic principle of setting a stop loss is always set your stop loss below your support or above your resistance, right? Below your support or above your resistance, right? So if you understand that basic principle, determining where to put your stop loss shouldn't be a problem. So let's take, for example, I take this trade now, right? Of course, I'm taking an instant execution. I'm putting my take profit before the resistance. My stop loss will be below. So somewhere here, below that support, right? Why I'm putting my stop loss below that support is because if price is able to now break that support, that means the direction of the market has changed. That means there is no possibility of price bouncing back up. The support is serves more like a ground from the name support. It's supposed to bounce price back off. So if for any reason price now breaks it, that it simply means it's continue going down. So my stop loss will now be there to safeguard my trade, to cut it out at a minimal amount, to ensure that price doesn't keep dragging my trade downward as it keeps going. You get me? So understand the principle behind setting a stop loss. Your stop loss for a sell trade should be set below the next support, right? For a buy trade, rather, for a buy trade, you set your stop loss below the support. For a sell trade, of course, your stop loss will be above, so you set it above a resistance. So let's take, for example, I'm going in for a sell trade, right? Let's take, for example, I'm going in for a sell trade. My stop loss will be above my resistance. So if I was to enter a sell, expecting that price will push down, expecting that price will push down, my stop loss will be above this resistance. So this is my resistance point. I put my stop loss above that resistance, simply meaning that if price breaks above that resistance, I don't need to stay on that trade anymore. Right? I don't need to stay on that trade anymore because price has broken the only thing that would have made the market to push back in my favor. So I don't need to stay on that trade anymore. I cut that trade and I move on, right? So once you understand the basic principle behind stop loss, you wouldn't be asking for stop loss all the time, right? So just get that principle in mind, and I can assure you, you would solve your problem of stop loss forever, right? You stop your problem of stop loss forever, right? So let's look at USD CHF. We have news coming out on the USD, and we also have fundamentals coming out on CHF. Would that be a smart thing to do? We have both of them are having news coming out at the same time. Okay. In truth, it's not a smart thing to do because sometimes both currencies can come out strong, and what you have is a ranging market, right? A market where price goes, triggers one side, triggers the other side, and it starts ranging in the middle. So that's really not a smart thing to do for you to take a trade on a pair that has news coming out for that day. So you just leave that and go to a pair. So because the aim of currency trading is buying a stronger currency to sell off and selling off a weaker currency, right? So as much as possible, you want to streamline your options. You want to streamline your options. Streamlining your options can also include selecting a strong instrument and pair, because your trading doesn't start from when you analyze when you are looking at the chart. Your trading starts from picking the instrument, right? Your analysis starts from picking the instrument. I'm picking this instrument because there is high impact news coming out on one of the currency, and there is no high impact news, or there is no news at all coming out on the other currency. So to a large extent, I already have a clear view that at least this currency pair should go in one direction, either a positive direction or a negative direction, depending on the news that is coming out. But in a scenario where you now have two news coming out, you increase your variable, right? I think a whole lot of us did possibility. So when you streamline when you bring down the options you have at hand, or when you bring down the variables on the table, you get a clear edge direction, and you can now control your trade, or you can now control the outcome, because trading also to a large extent has to do with you controlling the outcome, right? So if you can control the outcome, you wouldn't have so much issues at all, right? So for let's skip USD CHF and go to USD CAD. All right, so let's look at USD CAD. This is USD CAD on a weekly time frame. Let's go to a daily, an hourly time frame. So USD CAD, of course, as expected, the USD has started gaining positive sentiment, which has started pushing price up, and you could see clearly that price is being rejected at this point, right? So most likely, if this candle is closing, there is every possibility to close at it will close as a bullish engulfing, right? There's every possibility that this candle might actually close at a bullish engulfing. So of course, my preference on this particular instrument is also a buy in favor of the USD CAD. Bless me. So my preference is actually a buy in favor of the USD against the CAD. So, but I would want to go in for a buy because if you look backward, if you look backward, if you look backward, right, you could see that price was rejected here, rejection one, rejection two. That's twice in a day. That's on the 16th. That was the day before yesterday. We had double rejection around that point. And then if you draw a line there, you see that that point also served as a support for price. That point also served as a support for price. You could see price came all the way down here and was rejected. So of course, I wouldn't want to be taking a trade before that point. I wouldn't want to be taking a trade before that point so that I don't get caught in the crossfire, right? So if I want to go in for a buy, I'd want to go in for a buy above there. So I'm going for a buy at price level 1.35068, 1.35068, 1.35068, 1.35068. I'm going for a buy at around that point, right? So, and for my take profit, I'll have my take profit at price level 1.35310, 1.35310, 1.35310. So that's where, like I said, my preference is actually going to be a buy. But if price breaks above this support point, the support being my blue line, then my entries are my orange line, right? So I are going for my buy at price level 1.35038, take profit at 1.35310. Right. So alternatively for a sell, should the news come out negative for the dollar, then most likely you might see a push down. So if at all I'm going to be considering a sell, price has to completely break below the support points where I marked out earlier, right? The price has to completely break below it. So I'd want to drag my entry down a bit, right? So this is a good entry point for a sell should price break below my support, and going for a sell at price level 1.34728. 1.34728, 1.34728. Then, of course, you could take your profit before the next support, right? Before the next support at price level 1.34497, 1.34497. So that's my preference for USD CAD. That's my preference for USD CAD, right? So let's look at how many currencies have we traded. We traded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So let's look at gold, we'll look at oil, and then we'll look at indices. We'll look at okay, that's 5. We have 5 more instruments to go. Okay, can we look at one last currency pair before going into let's look at one last currency pair. So let's pick AUD USD. AUD USD. So one last currency pair. I found it. Okay, AUD USD. So for AUD USD, of course, I think same thing is playing out for AUD USD too, right? You could see price AUD has actually been pulling up against the dollar for the better part of yesterday and earlier as of this morning, but it has also gotten to a saturation point here, right? Look at it at this point here, at the support here, right? So of course, I'll be rooting for the dollar, which would bring my preference to a sell. I'm rooting for the dollar, which would bring my preference to a sell. Of course. So I'll be going in for a sell if price is able to break below the previous support. Look at, there's a minor support here. There's a minor support here. So if price is able to break below that point, I'll go in for a sell at price level 0.65445. 0.65445. 0.65445. Take my profit as 0.65241. 0.65241. That's actually a very tight trade. This is roughly around this is about 20 pips, right? AUDUSD is also one instrument that's it's very cheap actually. It's a very, very cheap instrument. So if I told you're going to be making any good amount of money from that trade, of course, your lot sizing actually matters to a large extent, right? Your lot sizing matters to a large extent. So alternatively, if the news comes out negative for the dollar, should it come out negative for the dollar, then you might want to consider going in for a buy. But of course, I want to steer off my resistance, completely above my resistance, and going for a buy at price level 0.65810. 0.65810, steering completely away from my resistance and just to avoid a fake out trade. A fake out trade is where price actually pokes its head out and then comes back down, right? Something like this, where you have a long wick. Can you see this particular candle? Let me zoom in a little so you could get to understand. So there are sometimes when price actually triggers your order, it's mostly because there was a price actually came up, went above your support. It just poked its head above the support or above the resistance or below the support. It just poked its head and then went back down. So in order for you to be safe from such scenario, you need to put your entry a lot further from the resistance point or from your support point so that you don't get caught in a fake out. Right. So this will be my entry. Then of course my take profit will be at the next resistance somewhere around here. Like I said, this is a tight trade. This is a very tight trade. This is roughly around how many pip? 16 pip. So of course 16 pip, you do the math. I think Euro USD, even AUD USD, 0.01 should be giving you roughly around I think around 6 naira or there, but it's a very, very cheap instrument. And a standard lot should be giving you roughly around 600 for 0.16 naira for, yes, 16 naira for 0.10, 16 naira for 0.10, 6 naira for 0.01, and then a standard lot should be giving you roughly around 600 naira or thereabout. It's not even up to 1,000 naira. So it's a very, very cheap instrument. So for you to make a reasonable amount of profit on this trade, your lot sizing actually matters to a large extent, right? So so that's it. I'll be having my take profit for the buyer at 0.65958. 0.65958. I have my take profit around that point, right? So now let's look at commodities, then we round it up with stocks. Commodities, let's look at gold and let's look at oil. Okay, let's start with gold. Gold being a very reactive instrument to the dollar has actually been gaining a whole lot of momentum. Or yesterday, gold actually fell. Gold actually fell. We had yesterday we had day before yesterday and yesterday we had banks submitting their earnings, their performance, the more like a performance review of most of the banking sectors in the US, right? They were submitting their earnings reports, and that actually affected gold to a large extent. Right. So it was very good. I think most of the banks actually turned out with good numbers. Yeah, their report earning was actually good, and that affected the prices of gold to a large extent. And of course, if the news on the dollar also comes out positive, that should also push further downward sentiment on gold, right? So I still expect that gold should push down, and you can see that it's clearly struggling at this resistance point, which is also a support, right? This point here is clearly struggling here, and I have my moving average here. I have my 21 period moving average, which is strongly serving as a support, as a resistance for price. So I have my my dynamic resistance, which is just my horizontal line, marking out this resistance, and then my moving average also serving as my resistance. So that's, you could see that there's quite a whole lot of pressure around that point. So if price is able to break above here, then you might continue to see a buy, which is to a large extent, or to some extent, which is unlikely, because we have news coming out on the dollar, and sentiment around the dollar might be positive up until when the news comes out. So putting that in mind, I'd want to go in for a sell. I'd want to go in for a seller on gold, right? I'll have said we should go in for an instant sell, but a whole lot of us wouldn't trade that risky, right? So you could go in for an instant sell actually. Hold on, before you do that, let's go to a smaller time frame. Let's see what the chart pattern is on a smaller time frame. This is on a 15 minutes time frame. You could see the pressure building up, rejection at this point. We have let's zoom in a little bit to see what candle is that. Yes, so you have your inverted hammer with your bearish confirmation candle. The next candle was supposed to be bearish, but I think it pushed up a little, but still being rejected at this resistance point. So with this, right, I can still go in for a good sell. I could still go in for a good sell, seeing that this point here has been holding price quite well, and we have news coming out on the USD. So I'll go in for a good sell. So because I'm on a 15 minutes time frame, I think I have a clearer view of the market. So I'd want to go in for a sell below my 21 period moving average. Below my 21 period moving average. That would be at price level 2009.57. Price level 2009.57. So I want to go in for a sell at around that point to be sure that price that sell pressure is actually holding water, right? So I'll be going for a sell at price level 2009.57, then take my profits before the next take my profits around there. This is take profit one. You could break your take profit down into two, right? Take profit one and take profit two. So I'd take my first profit at 2006.11, 2006.11, 2006.11. That's so from my entry down to my take profit point, that's roughly around 34 pip, right? I think that should even be good, except you want to stretch your trade down to the second take profit, which is around 63 pip, right? Which is around 63 pip, right? But even if you're using a good lot size, 34 pip on gold is quite a good one. I can assure you that 34 pip for gold is quite a good one. All right, so that's thank you. So that 4 pip for gold is quite a good one, right? So alternatively, for a buy, if you're going to be considering a buy, that's if the news for the dollar actually comes out negative. If the news for the dollar comes out negative, I want to go in for a buy, but of course, I want to completely steer off my resistance, going way above my resistance, at least. Going for a buy at price level 2019.40. I'll go in for my buy at 2019.40, and looking back, there's a little bit of rejection here, so I stop here at 2025.01. At 2025.01, 2025.01. So that's my preference for gold. It's actually going to be a sell for gold, right? It's actually going to be a sell for gold. All right. So let's look at oil. Let's look at oil. So for oil, all I've been reading on the news for oil is supply cuts, supply cuts, supply cuts, supply cuts, and then Russia over supply, right? So the thing is, when it comes to oil is a very political instrument, right? And there's a whole lot of power in play when it comes to the oil market. So sometimes you get oil price just spike overnight because one country, one of the OPEC countries, is going against what they actually had in plan, or the agreement they had during the meeting. Because sometimes they hold the OPEC meeting and they say they all agree, okay, let's cut down supply by how many percent barrel, or how many this, how many that, and all of a sudden Russia is coming out to say, okay, I need to sell my oil and I'm going to be selling at a cheap rate, and all of a sudden price starts to skyrocket again, right? Or price starts to to fall again. So it depends on what's currently pushing the market at this point in time. So for oil, of course, you still use technical analysis to track it, but oil is a very political instrument. Most times when I trade oil, personally, when I trade oil, I go with the flow, right? When I trade oil, I just go with the flow. But what's been pushing the oil market of recent has to do with the fact that the Chinese economy, they are claiming that their need for oil, Chinese being the second largest consumer of oil in the world, they claim that their economy, their demand for oil at this point in time is very low. People are not really demanding for oil, and of course, countries are looking for alternative source of energy. Right after this Russia-Ukraine crisis, and especially the whole of the Eurozone, where they suffered major energy crisis because they couldn't get their regular cheap supply of oil from Russia anymore. So a lot of them are looking for alternative source of oil. So you could see major fall in oil prices. It tries going back up to stabilize, and then it falls again, and then you just keep having that range. You just keep having that range. Just keep having that range. So most likely you could see, of course, following the chart pattern, it has gotten to that point again where price gets to this high point, then starts falling down. So I expect that oil prices should drop from here, right? I expect that oil prices should actually drop from here. So, but I'd rather do my oil analysis on a 15 minutes time frame. I rather do my oil analysis on a 15 minutes time frame so that we are out of the market before there will be any need for before there will be fundamentals to change the direction of the market completely. So I'll be going in for a sell on oil. Yes, I'll be going in for a sell on oil. Looking at it technically, I'll be going in for a sell on oil. You could do an instant sell down to this support here at price level. So I'm going in for an instant sell, take my profit at price level 78.06, 78.06. 78.06. So an instant sell on oil is my preference. Just a short trade on oil, and that's all. No other alternative scenario at this point in time. So just that on oil. So let's look at so of course, like I said, your stop loss, if you want to have your stop loss anywhere above your resistance point, anywhere above. So in this case, I just picked a point above my resistance point, and I can put my stop loss at price level 78.50, 78.50. I have my stop loss at around there, and that's just basically how to set stop loss. If you enter your trade at this point, look at your next resistance point and put your stop loss just after the resistance point. If it is going to be a buy trade, look for your next support point and put your stop loss just below that support point. You get me? So that's just how it works. All right. So if you had entered that trade, I think you should be in good profit. I wouldn't advise you stay long on that trade. I wouldn't advise you stay long on that trade. Just take what you can and jump out. All right. So let's look at US 100. Let's look at US 100. I think indices markets would actually be very quiet this morning, depending on the effect of the news from the dollar zone, right? Depending on the effect of the news on the dollar zone. But basically, I actually still feel that stocks should push down, right? Just in the same direction as gold will be taking this morning. I feel stock should push down. It's actually pressing very hard on this resistance point. Let's go to a 15 minutes time frame to see. Okay. So you could see that it's currently pressing hard on this resistance point. It has been rejected here before it came down, and then it's pressing hard again on that rejection point. So definitely, price might not be able to completely break above here. And if it doesn't, if this candle closes and it closes below here, of course, I still want to go in for a sell, right? So looking at it here, I'd want to go in for a sell. This is on a 30-minute time frame, right? Because this is indices. Indices are quite very volatile and very, very profitable. So with little people on indices, you are still good to go, right? With little pips on indices, you are still good to go. So I would want to go in for a sell at price level 16860, 16860. So this is US 100. My sell at 16860.53. Take my profits, yeah, at 16829.81, 168 29.81. So exercise caution when you're placing your trade on indices. Ensure that you have good trade. I mean, if you're going to be trading indices, I don't see you trading at the level of 100,000 naira and 50,000 naira. So at least good 200, 300,000 naira should be able to place your 0.01, 0.032 and the likes, right? Your micro lot size comfortably without having so much fear in the market, right? But if you have the capacity, if you have good volume, you could do more than that. And I can assure you it will be much more profitable. It might even be the US 100 trade that will make you all the profit you need to make for the day, right? But you should use lot size proportional to your account. I can't overemphasize that. Use lot size proportional to your account, right? So I'll take my profits at 16829.81. Alternatively, if it comes out negative for the dollar, then you might see a spike up on indices. You might see a spike up on indices, but I'd want to go in for a buy way above my resistance point. So I start my buy from here at 16922.59. 16922.59. This analysis on a 30 minutes time frame. So I'd want to take my profit. I'd want to take my profit at price level 169 16964.98. 16964.98. 16964.98. So that's for US 100. And the last instrument we're going to be treating is US 2000, which is the king of indices. It's the most expensive indices pair. You'd want to do well to exercise a high level of caution when you're trading this, right? Exercise a high level of caution when you're trading this and use good volume, good capital. Trade it with good capital. It's very, very profitable. You just need good capital to carry it. So for US 2000, right? You could see the rejection on US 2000 also here, price pressing against my resistance point. So I'd also want to go in for a sell. My preference for this would also be a sell, but I'll go in for a sell below here. So rejection 1, rejection 2. So I'll go in for a sell below here. Our price level 1919.5, price level 1919.5. 1919.5. I'd want to take my profit. You see how slim or how tight my trade is, right? It doesn't matter because it's a very profitable instrument and I'll still make a lot. So I'll take my profit at 1913.7. I take my profit at 1913.7. This is roughly around that's just 5 pip, right? That's just 5 pip. But trust me, 5 pip on US 2000 is what roughly around 20 pip on Euro USD, right? So, but if you have the volume, if you have the capital, use good lot size, and I can assure you, you'd make quite a good amount of it. At least this trade should be able, worst case scenario, this trade should be able to make you a 200,000 naira in profit if you use a good lot size on it, right? So alternatively, if it comes out negative for the dollar, then you might see a spike up on US 2000. So I'd want to steer, like I said, steer off don't take your trade on your resistance point. Stay off your resistance, take your trade above your resistance, way above your resistance at price level 1932.8. 1932.8. Take my profit before the next resistance. This is next resistance. So I take my profit before it at price level 1939.0. 1939.0. So it's better price does not trigger your alternative scenario, right? It's better price doesn't trigger it at all than for price to trigger it and start going in the opposite direction. So for you to be sure that you don't get a fake trade, you need to steer off that resistance completely. So if price breaks that resistance comfortably, when I say breaks that resistance, it means it goes above it and closes. That candle goes above it, and then the next one to open closes above it. Then most likely you will see price continue in that direction. So be smart, ensure you use good lot size, ensure you have enough trading capital in your trading account, and do have a peaceful day. It was nice hosting you guys, and I'm Solomon.